Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta. We've come to the time in our quarantine services that Reverend Don Cameron is taking a well-deserved Sunday off, so I'll be doing the service this morning. My name is Jezibell Anat. I'm a worship associate here. I'm chair of the worship team, and I also do the pagan vespers. I do want to remind you that Reverend Don and the pastoral care team are available, so please do not hesitate to reach out to them if you need anything. Though we are physically distanced, we are still a church, we are a community, and we are still together, and we are here for each other. So let us now enter into a time of worship. Our opening words are by Maya Angelou. Everybody born comes from the Creator trailing wisps of glory. We come from the Creator with creativity. I think that each one of us is born with creativity. And I'll turn you over to another creative guy, our music director, David.
Good Sunday morning to everybody. Happy to be with you, and I hope that you are all safe and healthy in your homes. We're going to open up with hymn number 344, A Promise Through the Ages Ring, an old melody with much newer words. We don't often sing it, and so I'll play it through once before we sing the first two verses.
For our chalice lighting, we use words from the living tradition we share. This is our third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. And now we'll sing Spirit of Life.
Stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Now is the time in our service where we come together to share the joys and sorrows of our community. We do that by dropping a stone, representing our physical existence in this earthly world, into the waters of cleansing, healing, and renewal, and reminding us always that we ride upon the tides of change. Our first stone is a stone of mourning, a stone of mourning for the planet as we are all affected by this coronavirus, by its manifestations throughout the country, throughout the world. And we hope that there will soon be healing and transformation into times when we can come back together again. We have a joy from Alice and Andy Reith. After our first contract fell through, we got another offer within a few hours. We signed the contracts this afternoon, closing on June 9th. I've already started boxing the books, and that's for their new house. So we wish Alice and Andy best of luck in their move and in their new life. Our final stone is for all the joys and sorrows that we carry in our hearts. We may not wish to share them, but we know that they can still be transformed by the fact that we are part of a caring community. Blessed be. This church is a beacon, a flame of inspiration, a chalice of hope. And yet, the chalice does not burn without oil. Fire does not burn without fuel. And so our church needs your offerings to fuel us, to keep our programs alive and sparkling and vibrant with the fires of creation. So we ask you now, the links are coming up, to please give as much as you can. We know it's a hard time for people, but we need your help so that we can be here for you. And we thank you for your generous gifts that sustain our church. Now is our time of meditation, and I would like to invite you into a time of deep centering. We often say, take a deep breath, and it's like, what was that? And what I mean by a deep breath, relaxing the body, let go of any tension in your shoulders, arms, feel your feet upon the earth. Let your spine be relaxed. I'm reminded to take really deep breaths here because I have to say it feels a little weird doing this for the camera without all you guys here. But we're going back to a deep centeredness within ourselves, and that's with our heartbeat. Our bodies are composed of pulses and rhythms. The heartbeat was the sound we heard in our mother's womb. It's back to the heartbeat and these rhythms that form part of life. Abby McBride wrote, back to the river, back to the sea, back to the ocean, home to thee. Back through my blood, back through my veins, back to the heartbeat, one and the same. So I'm going to play a little bit of heartbeat for you now, and I invite you to allow the rhythms to relax you, be aware of your own rhythms, and allow them to be relaxed. I know a lot of our regular daily rhythms and rituals have been disrupted over the past few weeks. Allow yourself now to breathe deeply and center within the heartbeat rhythm. the chime will take us in and out of silence. Twyla Tharp wrote, "Art is the only way to run away without leaving home." Many of us are stuck at home now with all our plans in shambles. And when this whole thing began, we were hoping we'd be back to normal, and now we're wondering, what is normal? Is it like what Winston Churchill wrote after the Battle of Alamein? This is not the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. We're in for a long haul. We're all in this huge, horrible storm that is battering the world. But remember, we're all in different boats. Some of us are on luxury liners, and we're still relatively comfortable. Yeah, we're battered, and we can't go out and see the scenery, but we're surviving. And some of us are out there with barely a life raft. So let's really keep in mind our third principle and how we can encourage each other to stay strong and stay together. So I'm starting with the practical side of creativity. Creativity is a way of coping. Some of us are learning or improving some basic skills such as cooking and baking and gardening, and things like getting creative with making dinners with what's in the pantry instead of what we would like to get for the supermarket. And many of us in the church have been sharing recipes and sharing seeds, and we're helping each other in some of these practical ideas. We're learning to do things like these online services and Zoom meetings and finding ways of coping. And a lot of our parents are learning to homeschool their kids, since we don't know when some of the schools will be back, and learning to deal with people being home at different times. And also, our healthcare workers are facing unprecedented strains, and many of us are learning to make masks. And all of these coping skills require creativity. Some people are coming up with really cool mask designs and wonderful gift packages for our wonderful delivery people who are bringing our supplies. So ways that we can continue to help and support each other. And there's, of course, creativity as expression, which we're most familiar with. And a lot of people who are home have more time for developing their thoughts and ideas. I'm probably spending way too much time on Facebook, but it's also a way where I can kind of check in with people without having to make 100 phone calls every day. And what I really love is when I see my friends, they're writing and they're drawing and they're playing their instruments and they're dancing. And I see one person who's out there twirling a baton, and a lot of people are doing coloring books, and all of these wonderful, creative, and engaging, fun things. Andy Warhol said, "Don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everybody else decide if it's good or bad. whether they love it or hate it, and while they're deciding, make even more art. Now is not the time to worry about the quality of our art or how good am I or any of that. Should I do this, or is art only for the pros or any of that? If you enjoy it, do it. Take the time. You don't have to share it. This is for you. I've been doing things like a stuck-at-home film challenge where we have to just film things around the house. And no, I can't get in the good sound equipment that my sound guy has or things like that. So things are limited. But there's also a very relaxed approach. And there are a lot of these different challenges where people might do a drawing a day or play their instrument for a certain amount of time or improv. And people are not being judged. They're being supportive for allowing themselves to try these projects. And some people are having more time to work on their art. And we are really lucky that if this had to happen, we've got the internet and we are physically a lot more comfortable than we would have been in the flu that was over 100 years ago, the 1917-1918 epidemic, or the Black Death, or Justinian's plague. And I think about how scared and vulnerable people were in those times. And at least we have a lot more medical science. We have a lot more communication. We have more ways of finding out how people are doing and how to check in and stay connected. There's all kinds of wonderful online concerts and films, and there's a lot of classes via Zoom and a lot more special interest groups coming up. So we are a lot more comfortable in our quarantine than any other period in history. But it's still a rough time. And not all of us have the privilege of staying home and complaining about, oh, I'm bored, what should I watch? Please, this is a crisis situation, and our essential workers are working very, very hard for not as much pay as they should. Fortunately, at least we're coming to grips with what is essential and what are the needed parts of society. But we have to acknowledge that people are sick, people are dying. Some of us may have lost people that we've lost, and yes, we are all in mourning. We're scared and confused, and many of us are getting depressed. Stella Adler wrote, "Life beats down and crushes the soul, and art reminds you that you have one." Art doesn't always come with this, oh, I'm feeling good, and I'm going to sit down and express myself, and I'm going to paint and do all this. Art can come from sorrow and pain and fear and misery. Think of the blues, American blues, developing from the work songs and African American spirituals. Flamenco music and dance came from the oppression of the Gitano, the gypsies of Spain. Japan's Budo dance evolved from all the disruptions in the post-World War II Japan and all of the changes to the society, and we are feeling so many of those pressures. Rumi wrote, "Dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free." This is the cri de coeur, the cry of the heart when your passion overflows and the only way you can let it out is through some kind of creation, of bringing something forth from that raw, rough place, just as that pearl comes from the grit of sand inside the oyster. The word passion actually means suffering. Its root word are what must be endured. And a lot of Christian theologies were familiar to the reference to the sacred suffering of Christ upon the cross, which saved the world. But it also encompasses that suffering that can lead to catharsis. Remember in Greek tragedy that all the tribulations of the hero, that all of the journey of the mourning and the sadness became an emotional cleansing. It is that catharsis. And that is how art and creativity can help bring us through in this dark time. And many pre-industrial societies knew this wisdom. There were many ceremonies of using music and dance for healing in these celebrations that everyone can participate in. In shamanic terms, we sometimes call it soul retrieval, where it is the music and the rhythm that can help to restore wholeness. And it's not always about making pretty sounds. This can be the sound of that is ugly. And it can be the kind of dance that where you're feeling all blocked in and your movements are twisted, and maybe your face is ugly, and maybe you're not this pretty, graceful dancer. But it is you, and it is so real, and it is in the moment. It is that dance of mourning. It is the dance of transformation. And I'm saying this because I know a lot of people are numbing out with alcohol or food or distractions. But I would encourage everyone to find some way of expression, tuning in to that depth of self, finding your rhythm, letting it come out. Mickey Hart wrote that life is about rhythm. We vibrate. Our hearts are pumping blood. We are a rhythm machine. That's what we are. And we will allow our art to connect us and get us back to our rhythm and allow ourselves to express and move through our pain rather than get stuck in it. This is May. It's the season of beauty. This weather's been incredible, and I hope everyone has been out to enjoy it. I brought in some roses and our beltane wreaths to remind us that this world brings beauty. We are connected with the earth that is beneath us. And I invite you now to join me in our closing hymn, Mother, I Feel You. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Mother, I hear you in the river's song. Eternal waters flowing on and on. Mother, I hear you in the river's song. Eternal waters flowing on and on. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Father, I see you when the eagle flies. Light of the Spirit gonna take us higher. Father, I hear you when the eagle flies. Light of the Spirit gonna take us higher. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Heya, 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 ya, heya, heya, ho. Heya, 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 ho. Our closing words are by Neil Gaiman. The one thing that you have that nobody else has is you. Your voice, your mind, your story, your visions. So write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can. And we hope that the flame will burn inside you, though we extinguish our physical chalice here. And may you be blessed in the week ahead.
Thank you, Jezibell, for those great words this morning. That was really wonderful. I enjoyed that very much. We are going to have a special postlude. We're going to try to do a little bit of Turn the World Around. I know many people know that in church, so sing it home if you want. And even though you won't see her, you will hear Jezibell on the tambourine, and that's going to add a lot. And we may not do all the song, but we're going to do at least some of the song. And here we go.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around.
Have a great week, all.